Hey, everybody! Welcome to a special edition of Monsters of the Mind. I am Mr. G from the Monsters Inc. dimension, so it only seemed fitting that I would be in charge of this video. We're having a bit of a multiversal event right now. It's kind of complicated to explain, but if you haven't seen the Narwhal video, basically Garrett's are coming in from all over the multiverse into the original Mr. G's dimension, or something like that. I don't fully know. Anyway, luckily though, quantum mechanic Mr. G made a force field that should prevent any, cutaways, apparently, from what dimensional whatever it was. He's a quantum scientist, so he can do this. Anyway, I'm here to talk to you today about a movie that, exists and has monsters in it. I should have written a script. Okay, let's get into this. Today, we'll be talking about the monsters of Monsters Incorporated. Now, we'll really only be talking about the monsters from the first film, since those are the only ones that are generally remembered in the mainstream consciousness. So, anyone introduced in the prequel or TV show won't really be talked about here. So, first off, let's give a summary. Monsters Inc. is a 2001 film and Pixar's fourth film. Basically, it concerns a world of monsters, and it's revealed that monsters have a similar lifestyle to humans, actually. But there's one major difference. Monsters have scream power. So, monsters have to go into the human world to extract screams from people so that they can use it for power. However, one day a human gets into the monster world and they have to put her back, but then they uncover that there might be more going on behind the scenes than they thought. In 2013, there was a prequel film, Monsters University, which deals with how there's a school that teaches you to be scary. And then in 2021, we got a TV show, Monsters at Work, which takes place before the end of the first film, but it also takes place like right before it or something like that. It's hard to explain. Anyway, this show is actually quite good in my opinion. It has kind of a bum rap online, but I kind of like it. So, yeah. Well, enough dilly-dallying. Let's get into the monsters of Monsters Incorporated. First and foremost, we have the main character, James P. Sullivan, or Sully, as everyone calls him. Sully is a large blue hairy monster and the best scarer of Monsters Inc. One night, however, he encounters a stray door and ends up releasing a human into the monster world. But as the film progresses, he learns that humans are not dangerous and he starts to bond with the kid, who he nicknames Boo. Sadly, though, he has to send her back and her door gets shredded, meaning he can never see her again. Later on, though, Sully becomes the CEO of Monsters Inc. and has changed the company from scaring kids to making them laugh, but is still sad about never being able to see her again. But it turns out that his friend Mike has rebuilt Boo's door, allowing him to see her again. That is such a nice ending every time it gets me. In Monsters University, Sully is no longer the main character. Instead, he's now Mike's sidekick, basically. In this film, we learn about his college days and find out that he used to be quite a rowdy person who is very confident in himself due to his family consisting of very famous scarers. However, he gets suspended from scaring school due to how he only ever does the same scaring trick over and over. So now he and Mike have to compete in a school event to prove they're still good at scaring. But he's not confident with Mike's scaring ability and ends up sabotaging the final event to make sure he wins. This leads to an incident where the two of them end up trapped in the human world and have to scare adults in order to power the closet from the other side. But they end up getting expelled from the university because of this incident. But at the end of the day, they end up working at Monsters Inc. anyway, starting from the bottom and working their way up. Monsters at Work, like I said, takes place between the semi-ending of the film and the actual ending, but not much to say here, as Sully isn't really focused on in this series. The next monster on our chopping block is Mike Wazowski, a green spherical cycloptic monster. In the first film, he serves as Sully's friend and the film's comic relief. He mostly exists so that Sully has someone to talk to. His job in the factory is that while Sully scares the kids, it's his job to prepare the doors so he can go into them in the first place. With Mike, he takes a lot longer to get along with Boo, only really coming around here near the end of the film. At the end, after Sully becomes CEO, Mike ends up becoming the best comedian in Monsters Inc. In Monsters University, Mike is now the main character, and the plot basically revolves around trying to prove that he's scary despite what everyone thinks. However, after finding out that Sully cheated at the final event of the games, he ends up sneaking off to the human world to prove he's scary, only to find out that no one is scared of him. So, after a heart-to-heart and an event where they scare adults, Mike accepts his lot in life and ends up realizing that if he can't be a scarer, then he can be a trainer for a scarer. And then in Monsters at Work, we find out that he's the one who is training all the former scarers to be comedians instead. Next, we got Randall Boggs, a purple lizard like monster with the ability to change color and even become invisible. In Monsters Inc., Randall plays the role of antagonist. He's only the second best scarer of Monsters Inc. and has developed a deep resentment for Sully because of this. Randall is the one who kickstarts the plot, as he's the one who brought Boo's door down in the first place. At first, they assume that it's because he was trying to cheat by scaring kids past closing time, but then it turns out he's secretly been running a conspiracy behind everyone's back for years, where he has invented a machine that sucks the screams right out of children without the need for scarers to enter the room, and he was planning to kidnap Boo as a test dummy. Eventually, though, his plan is foiled after the heroes end up chucking him through a door somewhere in the south where he gets beaten with a shovel because they think he's an alligator. In Monsters University, we find out the reason he's always squinting is because he needs glasses but doesn't wear them due to how they would give him away when he turns invisible. We also find out that his rivalry with Sully started when Sully embarrassed him at the Scare Games, leading to an intense grudge. Probably not helped by the fact that a college dropout is a better scarer than him. Like, just imagine that. Imagine constantly being upstaged by a dropout. Yeah, I could understand how that could lead to resentment. Next, we got Henry J. Waternews III, a large spider-like monster with 5 eyes, and the former CEO of Monsters Inc. At first, he seems to be a tough but fair boss, especially with how he treats Sully like a son. But eventually, it turns out that he's in on Randall's plan to extract screams from kids. Eventually, he gets arrested after he gets tricked into confessing his plans on tape in front of the authorities. In Monsters University, he only makes a cameo as a picture during the end credits. He was going to have an actual speaking role where after Mike and Sully get expelled, he was going to drive up to them and give them jobs because he was impressed by their performance. But this was scrapped because the writers thought this was too easy, so he got completely cut from the film aside from the aforementioned picture. Also, he apparently used to have hair. Next, we got Celia May, a cycloptic gorgon, though we never see her petrify anyone. Apparently, they were planning a gag where it turned out she petrified all her ex-boyfriends, but they thought that made her too unlikable, so they scrapped it. She's a receptionist at Monsters Inc. and Mike's girlfriend. Her role in the film is pretty small, only really existing to give Mike motivation. And like Waternews, she only makes a cameo in Monsters University as a photo in the credits. But Monsters at Work gave her a larger role since she's been promoted to being a floor manager. Then there's Roz, a large slug-like monster who works as Monsters Inc.'s secretary. In the film, she has a running gag with Mike where he keeps neglecting to turn in his paperwork. And at first it seems like she's just a gag character. But then at the end of the film, it turns out that she's actually the top agent of the monster equivalent to the FBI, and has been working undercover in order to find out about the Scream Machine conspiracy. Roz only has a cameo in Monsters University, where she appears after Mike and Sully get in trouble for their little human world stunt. In Monsters at Work, we find out she has a sister named Rose. However, there are some implications that they're actually the same person, and she's just messing with Mike, with the biggest evidence being that they never appear together on screen. And finally, we got the Abominable Snowman, a former employee of Monsters Inc. who got banished to the Himalayas. In the first film, Mike and Sully encounter him after getting banished due to finding out about the machine. His role is small but memorable due to being played by recurring Pixar voice actor John Ratzenberger. At Monsters University, we find out he used to work in the mailroom at Monsters Inc. and was Mike and Sully's supervisor when they worked in that department. And in Monsters at Work, we find out the real reason he got banished was because he found out about the Scream extractor, so Water News had him banished so he wouldn't squeal. Luckily, at the end, he ends up getting unbanished and he becomes a snow cone vendor. Also, earlier in Monsters Inc., Mike mentions Bigfoot and Nessie as monsters who are banished, implying that all cryptids are just monsters who have been banished. So that's definitely something to think about. Monsters Inc. is a large franchise and has had plenty of spin off material. A notable one is the comic follow up, which acts as a sort of sequel to the film. In this one, this series involves Randall returning from his banishment and Waternoose escaping prison. And they team up with, get this, Sid from Toy Story. I'm not joking, he's never actually named in the comics, but it's pretty blatantly him. So yeah, that's a thing. Monsters Inc. had a level in Kingdom Hearts 3. This one takes place after the film, where we find out that during closing hours, Sully and Mike bring Boo to the factory to play. However, Randall returns due to being freed by the main bad guys of the game. But after a while, Randall is stopped and gets sent back to getting shovel whacked again. You know what's stupid? You never actually get to fight Randall, because for some reason it seems like ever since the second game, this franchise has been afraid of letting you fight Disney villains. Which is stupid! The boss fights of them are the best part of the franchise! But no, instead you get to fight a random blob monster and Randall just surrenders. Yay! Seriously, why has this franchise become allergic to letting you fight Disney villains? At the parks, there are several Monsters Inc. rides. In Disneyland, we got Mike and Sully to the Rescue, which is basically the film told of animatronics. In Disney World, there's the Laugh Floor, which is basically an interactive show where you can text jokes to a number that's provided, and Mike will read them on stage. And in Tokyo Disneyland, there's Ride and Go Seek, where you play flashlight tag with the monsters. Well, guys, that's all for this episode of Monsters of the Mind. We're still trying to fix this multiversal thing, but this is like a fun distraction for me. And now, there's only one appropriate way to end this video. Luca G, come here. You rang? It's time, my friend. Oh, yeah. If I were a rich man with $1 million or 2, I'd live in a penthouse in a room with a view. And if I were handsome, no way it could happen. Those dreams do come true. I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have you. Wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have. Wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have. Wouldn't have nothing. Can I tell you something? For years I have envied you green with it. Your grace and your charm. Everyone loves you. You know. Yes, I know, I know, I know, I know. But I must admit it. Big guy, you always come through. I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have you. You and me together. That's how it always should be. One without the other don't mean nothing to me. Nothing to me. Yeah, I wouldn't be nothing if I didn't have you to serve. I'm just a funky little eyeball and a funky optic nerve. Hey, I never told you this. Sometimes I get a little blue. Looks good on you. But I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have you. Let's dance. Look, Ma, I'm dancing. Will you let me leave? Look at that, it's true. Big guys are light on their feet. Don't you dare dip me. Don't you dare dip me. Don't you dare dip me. Ow, I should have stretched. Yes, I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have you. I know what you mean, Sully, because wouldn't know where to go. Me too, because I wouldn't know what to do. Why do you keep singing my part? I don't have to say it. Oh, say it anyway. Because we both know it's true. I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have. I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have. I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have you. Wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have you. One more time! It worked! I don't have to say it. Where'd everybody come from? 'Cause we both know it's true. Let's take it home, big guy. I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have. I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have. I wouldn't have nothing if I didn't have you. 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 A-E-O, that means you. Yeah.